I'm going to be talking about deforestation, a problem on a global level or global scale, however you want to say it or phrase it. That's your call. Um, Produced and directed by moi. Okay, so let's start. All right, so let's actually do a proper introduction. Deforestation, a problem on a global level. Okay, so where do we go from there? Where does it all begin? Does it begin with just talking about the Amazon? Does it begin with something else? I think. All right, so deforestation is a global issue that affects everyone on this planet. Historically, deforestation was a major industry or way of life that even allowed humanity in some degree to flourish. It had historically been a technique known as slash and burn agriculture, and from there progressed into the lumber industry as we know it that has rocked the world. And now it's a major problem that the entire world is facing. It's a major global issue with many countries and states trying to work together to end it, or at least delay it. And within this issue, we're going to talk about the Amazon rainforest in particular. So let's do that. Let's talk about the Amazon rainforest. So to begin, there is a great amount of history in deforestation. It begins with a type of agriculture, as I previously said, slash and burn, which is actually still practiced today. It has been a common practice throughout history and is still relevant in many areas for different reasons, and even used today in the Amazon rainforest. It is and was and still is a method for people to make space for growing crops or for raising cattle, which is a huge problem in Brazil, like in particular, in terms of deforestation of the Amazon. By chopping down or cutting down trees in the specific area and then burning the debris as to fully clear the field, it may be used for agriculture. And along with that, in regards to the Amazon rainforest, it turns out that the soils of the forest are actually infertile, thus creating the problem of how to make the soil fertile once again. This is where the burning comes in rather than just chopping down the trees. Many people burn them to make the soil ready for crops. The only problem is that after a certain point, the ground is no longer fertile as all the nutrients have been used, so the crops need to be moved. For many people who live near and around the Amazon, expensive soil additives aren't options like fertilizers, which forces them to burn the land. But it's always going to be a short-term solution. A major problem with this is that it sometimes, too, the fires that can burn out of control just by human error or by really bad luck if the wind turns the other way. And it turns out all of the cropland in the world, which is roughly 5.8 million square miles, comes from previously deforested land. So that puts into perspective the grand scale of the issue. Now, besides slash and burn agriculture, there is another major competitor, which is a massive cause for deforestation, the lumber industry. Okay, so the lumber industry. It's still a major industry in the world. Natural resources are in high demand all around the world. And what comes with that, excuse me, is wood. Exotic woods are even more sought after. And there are even specific woods that are in more danger than other that are actually protected or tried to be protected. Wood or lumber from the Amazon rainforests are very popular. In the earlier times, the impact of deforestation was really kind of unknown. It wasn't it wasn't actually studied that well. So the lumber was needed for many things, such as building homes and to make into coal, to build ships, to build furniture. It was and still is a lucrative business. The main difference is that it's not sustainable. As we had previously thought, it was, sadly to say, we're slowly going to run out of these precious trees. Modern day logging or the logging industry has been widely criticized. There are many reasons to why this is. One of the reasons would be it's not sustainable. We're going to run out. The gains that we get from it don't really outweigh the cons. You know, that whole thing of oxygen that we might run out of, that's kind of a problem. We cannot grow crops of like trees over those soils of like where we had already like taken out the forest. We can't grow those trees fast enough to keep up with the supply and demand. So pretty much we're just destroying everything, and we just can't make up for it. We can't compensate for it. And though there has been like a recent outcry for laws and regulations to be made to help combat deforestation, and those studies have been made to try and find reasonable ways to allow the logging industry to live without destroying forests, many of these laws and regulations are not being followed. This is especially true in Brazil, which 2/3 of the Amazon rainforest actually are located in Brazil. Okay, so let's go from there. Studies have been taken underway to find possible scenarios into understanding the impacts of logging, and what each scenario as a scenario's outcome might look like. In a journal called A Critique on Long-Term Impacts of Logging in a Tropical Rainforest, a simulation study, they found that deforestation, different trends of deforestation, and created different scenarios that would go along with them. With the scenarios are different outcomes to help us aid our understanding of the effects of the logging industry for right now into wherever it may go. It delves into what's known as the logging cycle, which is the process of cutting down trees, planting new ones, waiting for them to grow, and then cutting them down again, and repeating this process over and over and over. This is a process that takes years to do, just a lot of time. For example, there are logging cycles that range from 20 to 100 years. So it's going to span over different generations of people. That's kind of nuts. And though there is a way for logging to regenerate itself, it's not often used and applied of taking out a grove of trees and planting new ones. But a lot of people just don't waste the time with that. That's time and money that they don't want to waste. So, greedy people. Logging in the Amazon rainforest in and of itself is a tough issue to take on because there's so many different facets of it and so many different aspects involved. In cases of the Amazon rainforest, many places that are chopped down do not get replanted, as I previously said. In the case of the Brazilian Amazon, it has been noted that globalization may increase logging pressure in forest-rich regions. They're really feeling the heat on this. That's for sure. The supply and demand of lumber is one that is hard to keep up with. If somebody has the crazy notion and thought of conservation in their mind. To put into perspective how massive the Amazon rainforest is, it is the largest remaining block of humid tropical forest, and about 2/3 of it, as I said before, is in Brazil. That was a quote. The Amazon also covers parts of surrounding countries such as Venezuela, Colombia, Ecuador, Peru, and Bolivia. It has been recorded that in the past 40 years, close to 20% of the Amazon rainforest has been cut down. This image should help put into perspective how much of the rainforest is gone now, how much of it we have lost over the years. Okay, so that picture really demonstrates how much we've lost, how much it's shrunk just from deforestation. In Brazil, the events set in motion by the logging industry are almost more destructive than logging itself. Logging has brought on a multitude of problems beyond just the pure destruction of it. For example, in the Brazilian Amazon, when logging trucks create new logging roads, they open up swaths of land that were previously impenetrable by to people. The sun allows people to move into the forest and into places they'd never previously been able to get to before. And from allowing people into areas that there really are no regulated rules, such as in certain regions of the rainforest, people begin to take ownership of those areas and call it their own. This is something that can get really ugly because some people are willing to go to extreme lengths, such as using weapons to maintain control of a certain area in Brazil and of the rainforest. So to go with that, another major issue associated with the loss of the Amazon and any major forest really is a major loss of biodiversity. There's a very specific and fragile ecosystem in the Amazon, and the process of logging offsets this balance. The Amazon is losing losing a lot of species due to how much the climate of the rainforest is changing and has changed. As it turns out, moist tropical forests, such as the Amazon, have the greatest concentrations of animal and plant species of any terrestrial ecosystem. Once again, another quote. The different plants and animals that call the forests their home generally rely on one another to survive. So if one of those elements disappears or goes haywire, it creates a ripple effect that affects almost everything. It's very interdependent, and so when one of those pieces is missing, it's like like a watch. Let's think of a watch. When a piece of a watch falls out of like the cogs and gears and whatever, when one of those pieces falls out, the clock doesn't work anymore. The watch will no longer work. It's the same kind of idea. And along with that, you're losing our chance at gaining medicine. A lot of components that come out of our major medicines comes from the rainforest. And because we know so little about actually what's in the rainforest itself, we're losing all of that information, all of the possibilities of curing, who knows, maybe all the diseases, maybe only cancer. But God forbid we actually cure cancer. Like, I don't know, I digress. It's a huge problem that we need to tackle and face. So I hope that you learned a lot about deforestation. I hope this maybe gave you a new opinion on it if you didn't already hold the same view as me. So thank you very much.